Hello, and welcome to my AEW Full Gear 2022 predictions. I am not super caught up with AEW recently, but there's a big show tonight, and I wanted to do predictions ahead of it. So this should be fun, because who knows what I'm going to get right and wrong here. So I'm going to start. I've got the Wikipedia article open, and I'm going to work from bottom to top. There are 13 matches listed, and the top one is presumably the main event for the AEW World Championship. So with that in mind, I'm going to start at the top and just work my way up the list. So this isn't necessarily the order the matches are going to happen in. This is just the order they are listed in Wikipedia, bottom to top. Starting with the first 3 matches are pre-show matches, so they will be before the other 10. We know that much. Hence pre-show. So the first one I'm going to cover is Eddie Kingston against Yun Akiyama. I'm going to show my ignorance here. I honestly don't know who that is, but I feel like on home turf, Eddie Kingston probably picks up a hard-fought win here. I'm not going to go in depth with any more of this. I'm not aware of a storyline where Eddie Kingston's on a losing streak, crisis of confidence, etc., etc. So I just, why not give Eddie a win here? Like, why not? Up next, we're going to look at a 10-man tag team match, Best Friends, which is Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, Rocky Romero and Danhausen taking on The Factory, who are comprised of QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Lee Johnson, Nick Camarotto, I'm sure Excalibur says Camarotto, but it's spelled Camarotto, I don't know, and Cole Carter. Surely the Best Friends win this. The Factory don't ever win anything. QT can just take pins for days, can't he? I'm going to go with Best Friends. Again, not going to spend a lot of time on this match. Just going to outright predict Best Friends to win and move along. The final pre-show match is Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks in the semi-final of the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament. So the winner of this match gets next. I believe it's guaranteed next. It's definitely a future shot at the World Championship, but I think it's next shot. Ethan Page is already in the final. The final was supposed to take place on this show. However, Ricky Starks had an injury that delayed his quarter-final match by a week, so it's all fallen apart a little bit in terms of scheduling. So we're having the semi-final on the pre-show instead. I think Ricky Starks wins this. Starks is someone they're definitely trying to get behind and build up. Starks versus Page makes more sense than Cage versus Page, as much as the rhyming match is very tempting. But yeah, I think Starks versus Page, and maybe even Starks as the winner of the tournament, to be honest, overall makes sense. So I'm going to pick Ricky Starks here. So on the pre-show, I've got Eddie Kingston, Best Friends, Rocky Romero and Danhausen, and Ricky Starks picking up wins. Right, on to the main card. Starting with the triple threat match for the AEW TNT Championship. It's Wardlow defending against Samoa Joe, who recently turned on him, and Powerhouse Hobbs. There's been a lot of criticism of Wardlow's TNT Championship run, and how he's not really been very featured, and he's stalled a lot since he won the title. So there's potential for them to take the title off him as sort of like a bit of a reset for him. However, I think the correct play here is to go all in on him and actually make his title reign good. So with that in mind, I'm going to pick Wardlow to retain. But the fact that this is a 3-way does make me suspicious that maybe this is a way to take the title off him without him losing as such. So maybe Hobbs could pick up a win on Joe. That's a possibility. But I'm going to go with Wardlow for this one, and we'll see how I get along, won't we? Up next, we've got the 6-man tag team match for the AEW World Trios Championship, featuring the only 2 champion teams so far in AEW history. Death Triangle, the current champions, which is Pac, Pentel, Zero Miedo, and Rey Fénix, defend against the Elite, which is Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, who won the initial tournament. Finals at All Out, and then Brawl Out after All Out happened, didn't it? So they were stripped of the titles. So this is where they get their rematch. Now, it's difficult this because are they just going to reset to the Elite and carry on where they were supposed to be before all that happened after All Out? Or are they going to continue to slightly punish the Elite and keep running with Death Triangle? It's quite a dilemma for me personally to pick a winner here. The fact that the Elite are back means the investigation has been carried out and they have presumably been found to not be in the wrong. Otherwise, surely there'd be more punishment to follow. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to controversially go for the Elite to pick up the win here. I could definitely see it going to Death Triangle, but I think maybe the Elite win back the titles, and whatever the original plan was for the Elite, they can now carry out just a pay-per-view later, if you like. Instead of the plans coming out of All Out, it's now the plans coming out of Full Gear. So I'm going to go with the Elite for the title change. Up next, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal versus Sting and Darby Allin in a tag match. I mean, Jay Lethal's quite low down the pecking order in AEW. He takes some losses and what have you. Jeff Jarrett's, his legacy is intact. Whatever you think of his legacy, it's not changing based on his AEW run, is it? So, I don't see any reason to give them a win over Sting and Darby Allin. So I'm going to pick Sting and Darby Allin. It's strange to bring Jeff Jarrett in just to lose to Sting and Allin, but he's probably going to take the pin here, quite potentially, to keep Jay Lethal at least a little strong. But yeah, Sting and Darby Allin to pick up the win here. Now, next we have Jade Cargill defending the AEW TBS Championship against Nyla Rose. Now, I know Nyla had stolen the title, the actual physical belt. I don't know if she still has it or if Jade has managed to retrieve it. But either way, it's been probably been quite an interesting and fun story to have the champion not have the belt and the challenger taunting. But it seems to be that the challenger with the stolen belt is the face in this situation. Usually that's quite a heel tactic to take the belt and proclaim yourself a champion that you're not. But I think Nyla Rose is kind of being pegged as the face in this one. Or more of a face than Jade Cargill anyway. Less of a heel. So I'm not sure. This would be an opportunity to end Jade Cargill's undefeated streak and give Nyla the actual title. But I feel like with Nyla getting so many one-overs on Jade, I don't know. I really don't know who they're going to give her streak to. Maybe that someone featured later in the card. Who knows? But for now, I'm going to go with Jade to retain. I think. I think it'll be probably her toughest defense. I think they'll make Nyla look really strong. But I think Jade will just about retain. But the impervious, sort of impenetrable defense of Jade Cargill will start to show cracks, I think, in this match, but she'll still pick up the win. Next, Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in a steel cage match. This is a really interesting one because, like, obviously they're building Jungle Boy, but they're also, seem really high on Luchasaurus. He's super impressive, was super over before his heel turn. A steel cage match does have one caveat, which is that you don't have to beat your opponent. You don't have to pin or submit them. You can just manage to escape the cage. So I think we're going to get some sort of, like, photo finish with them both trying to escape the cage, one over the top and one through the door. And I think Jungle Boy should win that race. So yeah, I think Luchasaurus can be made to look like an absolute beast in a steel cage match, pinging Jungle Boy all over the place. But then, I don't know if Christian Cage is going to be involved, like at ringside, supporting Luchasaurus or what have you. But if he is, I can imagine him like insisting Luchasaurus keeps dishing out more punishment, go back for more, and then eventually Jungle Boy picks up the win. So yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with Jungle Boy to pick up the win here. Next, Dr. Britt Baker DMD versus Saraya, formerly known, in case you're unaware, as Paige. She's back in the ring, she's medically cleared, and her first match is going to be against Britt Baker. There's no way you have Saraya lose a return match, right? Like, that's just... This feels like one of the most set matches and results on the entire card, to be honest. I don't think there's a match I've been more confident about so far as we're going through this than this match. I feel like Saraya just has to win. So, yeah. Saraya wins. Up next, a fatal 4-way. Well, it says a 4-way match. It doesn't say fatal, but I assume it's one pinfall, one fall for a victory. It doesn't specify elimination. But it's a 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Championship between Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara. This is very strange. We've had a Claudio Castagnoli title reign already with the Ring of Honor World title. He lost it to Jericho. He could very well win it back here. It sort of depends on what the plans are for Ring of Honor. They've got a Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up. Final Battle in the not too distant future, and then there's talks of Ring of Honor next year getting their own TV deal. So the title will be off Jericho by then, but the fact that there's a Ring of Honor show before then, a pay-per-view, means he could lose it there. Potentially. But he could lose it here. Bryan Danielson would be a great choice to lead the new Ring of Honor brand while still appearing on AEW. So would Claudio Castagnoli. And then Sammy Guevara, if they're trying to make it almost like a developmental, what a great guy to sort of be the leader of that. And I think there's been a lot of build behind Chris Jericho sort of saying Sammy will know what to do. I.e. lie down for Jericho, I think is the implication there. But I think Sammy's maybe not going to do that. But I don't know if that means he's going to end up winning the match. Or if that... Maybe Sammy won't do that. Then Jericho will lose the title to one of the other two and they'll go into a Jericho versus Sammy feud. Is, you know, a potential way I could see them going with this. So if I'm thinking that, then I'm between Danielson and Claudio. Oh, this is tough. This is tough. Let me toss a coin. Heads for Danielson, tails for Claudio. Okay, what was it? Heads Danielson? That's tails. Do I feel good about that? Yeah, I feel good about that. Okay, I'm going to stick with it. I wasn't actually going to go with the coin's decision. I was just seeing how I felt about it, whether I felt an urge to toss the coin, but I don't, so I'm going to go with Claudio. Claudio to regain the Ring of Honor World Championship going into Final Battle. Why not? I really have no idea with that 4-way, so I'll go with Claudio Castagnoli, why not? Up next, the Acclaimed defend against Swerve in Our Glory. I believe AEW, defend the AEW World Tag Team Championships, I should specify. I believe Swerve in Our Glory is still doing this sort of odd couple thing where Swerve's basically a heel and Keith Lee's not really wanting to be that heelish. Unless Keith Lee's gone all in on the heel since I last kept up. But I think this might be the time to finally split these two. The only concern is that they've got an interesting story, an interesting dynamic going right now. Are they going to be as interesting split up? Like, yeah, they can have a bit of a feud, but then after that, like, I know that's not me saying Keith Lee and Swerve aren't interesting. I'm just saying there's an awful lot of talent on the AEW books these days. Are they going to get lost a little bit in the shuffle? I've already mentioned, just on the men's side, Jungle Boy is always being pushed. Luchasaurus is, you know, an up-and-comer kind of thing for the company. Darby Allin is always kind of being pushed. There's the Elite. Pac's got a title, and the Lucha Brothers are always there or thereabouts. Wardlow, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston. There's all these sort of guys just below the main event scene. And I feel like that's where Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland fit in at the moment. There's the 4 in the Fatal 4-way for the Ring of Honor title, to be honest, as well. Like, it's very cramped upper mid-card, isn't it? So I don't know if they're better off staying as a team. But either way, whether they split them or not, I do think maybe the Acclaimed retain here. You know, they've not been champions for that long. They didn't even win the titles at All Out. They won it basically straight after All Out. So they've not even had a pay-per-view title defense yet. So I'm inclined to go with the Acclaimed to retain here. Next, singles match for the interim AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm defends against Jamie Hayter. Now, there's 2 schools of thought here. The first is the build has been for Thunder Rosa's return to face Toni Storm. There's been a bit of heat between those two back and forth, whether it's real or worked or what have you. The interesting return match for Thunder Rosa is Toni Storm. However, Jamie Hayter's building loads of momentum. There's this interesting story with her and Britt Baker where they're at odds, and Jamie Hayter winning the AEW Women's World Championship, while Britt Baker's not even in the match for it, would probably tip Baker over the edge and lead into a full-fledged program between the two. So I suppose it depends on when Thunder Rosa's due back. If Thunder Rosa's going to show up at the end of this match, then Toni Storm wins. But I don't think she's due back that soon. So there's always time to get it back onto Toni Storm or find another excuse to do Rosa versus Storm. So with that in mind, I'm going to go Jamie Hayter. I'm going with quite a few title changes in this one. I think I'm going with the Trios title changing, the Ring of Honor title changing, and now the women's AEW Women's main title changing, not the TBS, the Women's World changing. So I'm going to go with Jamie Hayter. I feel like now would be the time to pull the trigger on that one. So let's go for it. Do it, Tony Khan, you coward. And finally, in the main event, Jon Moxley defends the AEW World Championship against MJF. This is MJF's Casino Ladder Poker Chip cash-in match. I know I'm picking a lot of title changes, but this has to be MJF, right? Surely they pull the trigger on this. Jon Moxley can finally have his vacation. He can finally go off. And even if he doesn't, just has there been a better moment for this to be MJF's moment yet? I know they probably wanted to do this, take this from Punk. But I think that was always the plan, was for Punk to win it all out and then MJF to win the title here. You don't have to derail the MJF title win just because Punk's gone, in my opinion. So I think MJF beats Moxley. Probably not clean. There's the Firm. They can get involved. We could go into like quite a big Firm versus Blackpool Combat Club kind of feud if we wanted to, as a direction coming out of this pay-per-view. With MJF kind of separating himself from the Firm. As he said, they're a stable on retainer, aren't they? Or a faction on retainer, whatever they call them. Which means he can summon them whenever he wants, but he's not really a part of the faction. So if the Blackpool Combat Club decide they've got a problem with the Firm, MJF can just distance himself from the Firm and not have to deal with that. Plus, he's got a ready-made challenger coming up with the winner of the Eliminator tournament. So, yeah. I think MJF picks up the win here. Wins the world title, and it's going to be very interesting seeing how AEW handles his first world title win. And this is going to be the first... Well, no, Hangman. I'm going to say the first person not to be a world champion elsewhere. But no, Hangman Page won the world title. I don't know, I feel like when Hangman Page came into AEW, he was more made than MJF was. Like, this is going to be their first, we entirely built this guy world champion. And I know he was known on the indies beforehand, but I feel like his rise to superstardom has been exclusively in AEW. And not exclusively, but the vast majority has been in AEW. He was scouted as, you know, an undercard guy, and he has just shot himself right up the card. So it'll be very interesting to see that dynamic of, you know, this is a homemade guy. Hangman Page was kind of a homemade guy. This is a homemade guy. So it'll be very interesting to see how he's booked differently to the likes of a Jericho, a Moxley, and Omega, you know, who were already pretty big stars when they won the AEW. Well, when they came to AEW and then they won the AEW World Championship. You know, it's a different ball game. And he's a very different type of champion, maybe slightly akin to Jericho's original title reign, like cowardly heel with a stable having his back kind of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they take the title off Moxley onto MJF here, because Mox is like their ace, like, so it's not going to be clean. I'm pretty sure of that. Though if it was clean, it would make such an impact, wouldn't it? Anyway, let me just recap my results. I've got Eddie Kingston winning. I've got Best Friends winning. I've got Ricky Starks winning. That's the pre-show. Then on the main show, I've got Wardlow retaining the TNT Championship. I've got the Elite winning back the World Trios Championship. I've got Sting and Darby Allin beating Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I've got Jade Cargill retaining the TBS Championship. I've got Jungle Boy beating Luchasaurus in the cage match. I've got Saraya beating Britt Baker. I've got Claudio Castagnoli regaining the Ring of Honor World Championship. I've got the Acclaimed retaining the World Tag Team Championships. I've got Jamie Hayter for winning the Women's World Championship. And I've got MJF winning the World Championship. That's 4 title changes, so I'm not confident in that, to be honest. That's a lot of title changes for one night. For, what, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's more than half of the title matches result in a title change. That's unlikely. But the thing is, it could just be that it's come to a head where lots of stories require a title change now, and just happens to be on the same night. So we'll see. Let me know in the comments who you've got, who you're predicting, what you agree with, what you disagree with, what I've missed. Because there might be a thing where you're like, no, obviously Nyla Rose is beating Jade Cargill because this, and I just didn't know about the this, you know, just as an example. So do feel free to let me know in the comments where I'm wrong and why. Easy for me to say. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. My predictions. Don't forget to subscribe so you get to see my review of Full Gear, where I'll also go over my predictions and how badly I did. And share with your friends if you think they'd like to get in on the conversation. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Ebeza, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.